My name's Lauren. I'm an author, tiny house builder, but most of all, I'm a huge tea snob. After having to give up coffee, I picked up tea and I haven't stopped investing in it since. From researching its history, to trying new teas whenever I get the chance, to learning about the tea masters of the world, I'm here to review my various cups and give you insight on all the things I learned. Welcome to My Cup of Tea. Oregon Red Reserve is the second domestic tea ever offered by Stephen Smith Teamaker since the company's founding. This tea is grown in Salem, Oregon, in the Willamette Valley by Minto Island farms. It's headed by their lead tea cultivator, Kacie Merkel. This tea promises tasty notes of apple pie, hyacinth, and Gorgonzola. It was harvested in late May 2020 as a spring harvest tea. Oregon Red Reserve is grown here in the States, practically my next door neighbor. I really wish I would have known about them back when I still lived in Portland, though granted, I'm not sure if they were actually selling their teas when I was a high schooler several years ago. As stated in an interview with Stephen Smith, Kacie says this in regards to their tea farm. Oregon Red is created from the leaves of mixed genetic cultivars that were derived from our mother tea plant, which was planted more than 30 years ago. This tea is completely unique to tea plants and terrier here in Minto Island Co. It bears our signature, in a sense. Having mixed cultivars on a tea farm can be difficult to manage because not all tea bushes flush or produce new growth for harvest at the same time. Having many different tea cultivars can make it difficult to maintain a tabletop or flat canopy, which also makes harvesting a lot more difficult. But the eccentricities also make our farm and our tea more unique. From other interviews that I've watched of Kacie and from checking out the Minto Island Farm's website, these tea plants were originally started as some sort of experiment to see if the camellia sinensis plant would even grow in this region. Much to everyone's surprise, the plants not only grew, but they thrived. If you're curious, they even offer 1-year-old start for tea trees, which I'm hoping to get, fingers crossed, and they offer tours. So if you're in the area, this is a great way to kind of see a tea farm and also talk about tea. Now you may be surprised to hear that there are domestic teas in the States. I know I was. I always believed that you could not grow tea here because of our elevation and because of the various climates here in the States. However, after a lot of research, I've discovered that not only are there several in the States, but there are a few next door neighbors to me. There's even one in northern Idaho, which is a woman who's planting a few different tea plants in her backyard to see how they go. And there's cultivars in Texas, on Vancouver Island, in Oregon, and a few other places scattered across the country. There's even apparently talk that the plant might come to Hawaii to serve as an export for the nation after supposedly, and I haven't researched this a lot, coffee plants were decimated or something of the sort. But before I go further, let's talk about why I believed growing tea in the States wouldn't be feasible. From Wikipedia, camellia sinensis is mainly cultivated in tropical and subtropical climates, in areas with at least 127 centimeters or 50 inches of rainfall every year. Tea plants prefer a rich and moist growing location in full or part sun and can be grown in hardiness zones 7 through 9. Mainly high-quality teas are grown in high elevations, up to 1,500 meters or 4,900 feet, as the tea plants grow more slowly and acquire more flavor. And from plants.ces, this plant is slow-growing and easily maintained. Unlike many other camellia species, it is heat and drought tolerant and can perform well in full sun. A lot of what I read when I first got into tea a few years ago was that the tropical humid weather is best for this plant, along with lots of rainfall, slopes, and ways for the roots to drain so that they don't stay wet for long periods of time. Additionally, they seem to prefer a certain elevation range that the states just didn't have, along with staying above winter temperatures that most states do experience in some way or the other. But it turns out the plant is hardy, and with a little care, it can even be grown in northern Idaho. Exciting for me, so I hopefully can get one. with all that said, let's go ahead and give this one a try and see how it tastes.
If ever possible, it is best to use freshly filtered water for your tea. This creates a little bit of a, once again, a fun oxidization process. There's a little bit of air bubbles, and it's lighter. It's a fresher water, which will help the tea become even better.
Okay, so this tastes very good. I was a little bit surprised because when you open the bag, you smell sort of like a leathery, woody, kind of earthy smell. It's not like, you know, you open up like a new bag of leather. It's more of just like that hint of leather, smokiness, that earthiness smell in there. And when you open it up, you really get it. You really get a pretty good whiff of it. So you kind of go into this tea expecting one flavor. But when I brewed it, it has a very different flavor, which I was super surprised about. Took me off guard a little bit, but not in a bad way. I really enjoyed it. So this has, as I noted here, an earthy aroma. You open it up, you kind of smell that earthiness, a hint of smokiness, and the leathery smell. And you take a sip, and you get, I was really surprised by the grassy notes that I had in it. Usually I see grassy notes paired with green tea or with herbal teas of that nature, and I don't usually get a lot of it in my black teas. So I was very surprised to kind of, at first I took a sip and I was just like, oh wow, that's not the flavor that I was expecting. And so I noted that in here, you just get a little bit of that grassy note, vegetal note as well, kind of that grassy vegetable kind of flavor, just a tad, that you see generally in green teas. And then you get into a savory, earthy flavor. That earthy flavor comes forward a little bit more. Pair that with that woody flavor that black teas are well known for. And you get it, I didn't taste any chocolate notes, but I did taste just a hint of smokiness. I didn't really notice it at first, so I was kind of drinking, kind of searching for it and a few other flavors that I hadn't marked on my little chart here. And so I was able to finally kind of just a nice little like rounding hint that really completes a very, very well balanced bodied tea. I wouldn't say that it is as strong of a body as other teas that I've had, but the balance really does it justice. It's a very smooth tea. I could definitely see sipping on it in the mornings or just generally whenever. It feels like a tea that is well integrated into your just daily life. If you are wanting a good black tea, I would honestly recommend this one. I was surprised by how just well balanced it is. Usually, sometimes with black teas, you get a little bit more of one flavor hitting you, and then it just kind of falls off. I will say the linger does not last in my mouth nearly as long as other teas. So I would say that if there's anything that was going against this tea, it was just probably the linger. And I'm not sure, I'm not a tea maker, I have no idea how you would improve that. But just kind of a note going in that if you get this tea, you'll find yourself probably drinking it pretty quick because you're gonna be wanting that flavor again. You take a sip and you're like, wow, it's very good, and then it's gone. So I think that this is a really good tea. I ranked it as 4 stars, and I brewed it at 85 degrees Celsius for a little bit over 4 minutes. Not quite 5, just between 4 and 5 minutes. Steeped it only 1 time. I generally only steep mine 1 time. Unless it specifically says you can steep it for multiple times, I generally just like a fresh cup of tea. So this is really good. For my first tea that I've had in the States, that I know of at least, this was a really good one to start off on. I really want to try more teas grown here in the States. I'd be really interested to kind of see how they vary, how they different, and you know, there's one in Vancouver Island I might be able to try that one out, see if there's any sort of differences, and there's some down in Texas like I mentioned before. Might try those out and just see how the way in which that they're grown, the places that they're grown, how that's changed the tea flavors. So this one is a more grassy noted black tea that has a well-balanced body and a delightful aroma. So I really like this one. So hopefully you guys will check this one out. It is a reserve from Stephen Smith, which means 2 things: that it doesn't last nearly as long and is more expensive. So I showed the bag that I got it in, pretty small compared to some other bags that I have. So I would just be aware of that. But the Minto Island Farms does sell them on their website as well, sell their tea on their website. So if you're curious, you might have a better luck getting it from them directly. They're also very nice. Been emailing back and forth with, I think, Kacie, trying to get a tea plant. So would recommend them. They seem like good people, and their tea is good too, so that's always a bonus. Alright, so that's this one. If you're interested, I'm going to be finishing up my cup of tea over in my living room talking about writing, and you can see those videos on my Patreon. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your night.